Sanctuary, Heavenly Birthstones, Part 3, compiled by Shirley Jean Street and read by Wayne T. Street. When the time was right, Abraham resolved to select a wife from his father's people for his son Isaac, whom the Lord spared for Abram's faithfulness. Because of prayer and common sense, that courtship, according to the customs of the time, conducted by Abraham's servant Eliezer, was blessed of God. Rebekah was good and beautiful and made Isaac a satisfactory home. Quiet and meditative, peace-loving and pious, gentle and worshipful, Abraham's son Isaac walked in his father's footsteps. The twin boys of Isaac and Rebekah were opposites. Esau was the older by a few minutes. Brawny and covered with hair, he interested himself in the things of the body. He liked hunting and good fare, and he had an eye for pretty women. Yet he was shrewd enough to marry a third wife from his own people in order to please his parents and perhaps to obtain mention in their will. See Genesis 26, 34-35, and also chapter 28, verses 6-9. Jacob was Esau's complete opposite. He was a man of the home and farm, a good cook, expert at tending sheep, a keen breeder, a sharp judge of character, and a driver of hard bargains. Jacob accomplished by long-term policy what his brother attempted through immediate force. He was a good actor and crafty, though sometimes his schemes proved a bit too subtle and backfired on him. More than once, he overshot himself badly. All through his life, Jacob moved along lines of action which he had long and carefully considered. His ambition to outwit his brother Esau and his father-in-law Laban, and to obtain the birthright from the one and a living from the other, were eventually realized, but at what a cost of enmity and estrangement. His underhanded tactics in dealing with his father in order to outwit Esau forced Jacob to flee from home. He journeyed northward several hundred miles to Laban's house in Haran. Here Jacob was introduced to Rachel, Laban's younger daughter, and he immediately fell in love with her. To keep these incidents in proper perspective, we should bear in mind that Jacob was 77 years old at this time. Read the story in Genesis 27, verses 43-45, and also chapter 29, verses 11-20. Laban, too, was cool and cunning, and proved to be more than a match for the crafty Jacob. Although he was to become his father-in-law, Laban yet perpetrated against Jacob one of the most unkind tricks ever played upon a groom. The prime actor in this deception was Leah. In order to marry off Leah, his less lovely elder daughter, Laban substituted her for Rachel on the wedding night. Josephus, a Jewish historian, tells us that Jacob had been made drunk for the occasion, but had Leah determinedly opposed the scheme, there would have been ample opportunity during the protracted ceremonies to tell Jacob of the cruel substitution that was being so inexorably fastened upon him. What moved Leah to agree to this? Perhaps it was a longing for a permanent home of her own. Perhaps Leah was jealous of her younger sister or upset at being overlooked by so desirable a suitor as Jacob. But how ill-advised was her compliance with her father's methods. Whatever were her motives, Jacob certainly had been hurt by his own scheming. The deception of false identity which he had carried out with such telling effect upon Isaac, his father, now worked against himself. One shudders at the thought of the blame and bitterness which must have marked the earlier years of the married life of Jacob and Leah.